Welcome to another edition of Around the Table with Stacy Smith as we take a look at the economy and investing. It is estimated that every day 10,000 people reach the age of retirement of 65. For those who decide to retire and were able to invest in a 401k or an IRA, or perhaps they have a pension, they will be faced with making some decisions about how to handle those investments during retirement. And here to give you their thoughts about how to handle retirement and taking a look at your investments and that sort of thing is my panel of financial advisors and analysts. So let me introduce them to you now. Seated at the table is Frank Rossetti. Frank is the managing director of HF Management Company, which is part of an alternative asset partnership. Frank also's background also includes 50 years in the investing field, and he helped to establish Harvest Financial here in Pittsburgh, where he was the executive chairman. Across the table, we find Kim Forrest. Kim is the Chief Investment Officer and the founder of Boca Capital Partners. Kim has a dual background in both finance and in software engineering. You may have seen Kim in her many appearances on CNBC, Fox Business, and also on Bloomberg. Michael Godwin is with Progresso Advisors. He's taken a seat at the table, as he does every week, and Michael has a solid career in investing and is the Chief Investment Officer for Progresso Financial Advisors. And again this year, by the way, Progresso Advisors is listed among the Barron's national top 100 independent advisors. And one of our regular analysts, Carrie Coghill, could not be with us today, so sitting in for Carrie is Shana Bielik. Shana is a vice president and financial advisor with Coghill Investment Strategies here in Pittsburgh. Shana is also one of only 250 advisors given the 5-Star Wealth Manager Award for 2022. I want to thank all of you for joining us once again for Around the Table with Stacy Smith as we take a look at the economy and investing. Now, as I mentioned, someone facing retirement is staring at a lot of questions. How much money will I need each month if I invest them to make it through retirement? And if I invest that money, what happens if the stock market or the bond market goes down in value? What if we have more inflation? There are also some tax considerations. So, Shana, what should someone facing retirement do now? And how soon before retirement should they start to make those decisions?
Stacy, there's so much to unpack with this question, but I'll start with, if you don't have a retirement plan, I suggest you start now. It's never too early to plan for the future, just as we plan for trips and vacations and whatnot. But whether you're working with an advisor or using tools provided by Fidelity or Vanguard, take some time to see how retirement ready you are. You'll learn if you've saved enough or if you need to save more, and you'll be able to stress test for market volatility, inflation, and various tax consequences. I think people hesitate to take this step because they don't know how much cash flow they need in retirement. It's a tough question for all of my clients. But at least work and build the plan and allow the plan to tell you how much you can spend based on how much you've saved. And if that's not enough, then you need to make some adjustments. So if you plan early enough, you'll have time to make some changes.
Are there programs, software out there that you can try to do some of this on your own, or should you really contact a financial advisor? And if you do, how do you choose which advisor, which was another whole question and topic?
Well, yeah, that's right. Fidelity and Vanguard generally have some tools out there that give you a good baseline. But if your situation is complex, as many of my clients are, really working with the advisor, because there's so many cash flows, there's Social Security, there could be pensions, qualified money, non-qualified money. And it really does benefit working with an advisor that can take you through and help you structure, stress test the portfolio for down markets that we experienced last year.
Frank, you've had a lot of clients through the years that you've helped get through into retirement. So how do you start to judge how much money you're going to need in the future?
Well, we start with, first of all, a risk profile where we're trying to figure out at what point the risk that someone's taking with their money causes them to lose sleep, because we don't want to go that far unless, and unfortunately, often we have to go further than that, but that's a different subject. Then once we've determined that, we try to determine what their cost of living is going to be in retirement, which is a very difficult thing for people to get their arms around, because they really don't know what they're going to do with their free time. And sometimes that costs nothing, sometimes that costs a lot. And as I told my wife when she planned on retiring, I said, you can retire whenever you want, as long as your free time is not going to be spent shopping. And because no one can afford that if all you do is shop. Now you can shop without spending money. I'm good at that. I'm not a buyer, I'm a looker. Anyway, so once you've established that, then it becomes a math problem of what rate of return you have to earn, and hopefully that rate of return falls within the risk profile you have. Many times that is not the case, and that's when an advisor becomes very critical, because you have to start weighing what's more important: having money when you're old, not having money when you're old, having an inheritance for your children, having a philanthropic opportunities that some people want to get involved with, and all these other things that are variable. And so it's different for every person, though.
Yeah. Michael, I'll ask you this question. People are able to invest in stocks or mutual funds or whatever it might be before they retire. Do they have to change that plan after they retire?
Yeah, again, it's unfortunate because there's not really a universal answer to this question, Stacy, and I know it's kind of been the theme so far in the show, but it depends on a few things. One, risk tolerance, which Shane and Frank have already talked about. That typically does go down once you hit retirement. I mean, I'm not in this situation yet. I know Shana isn't, but when you get to the point in your life where you're no longer getting a paycheck every other week, that's a pretty big shock to your overall psyche. But even still, we do have a number of clients who are in retirement, but still have 100% of their portfolio in the equity markets, because they know that over time, equities generally outperform bonds. They have built up a nice nest egg, and they're willing to take on that added volatility. And again, it also depends on, you need to have a financial plan, because it depends on how much you have come retirement. And as Frank mentioned, what kind of lifestyle you wish to lead in post-retirement years. The one thing, Stacy, that I can say with certainty is getting that asset allocation right, meaning how much you have in stocks and how much you have in bonds, really regardless of where you are in life, whether you're just starting out in a career, you're mid-career, or in retirement, what you decide there ends up explaining 80 to 85% of your long-term return. So that decision is very, very important. And it's why, and again, I may be biased because I work for a financial advisory firm, but it's one of the biggest reasons why I think it's so important to work with an advisor, because if you get that asset allocation correct based on your needs, that's really going to be very impactful to your long run returns in your portfolio.
Okay, Kim, I want to bring you in on this. Your background is really in stocks. So looking at retirement, certain stocks you should avoid, certain ones you should try to gravitate toward.
I don't want to answer that question because that's too big and too long of a question. But what I would like to do is talk about risk. So everybody here has been talking about risk is the volatility of the markets. And I'm going to say I've been watching markets for a minimum of the last 24 years. That's what I've been paid to do. The funny part is when you're living off of your investments, the movement of the market is kind of immaterial if you have enough cash. And I think that is what a really good, and all of these people are really good advisors on here with me, but that's what they do, is they manage your cash flow so you don't have to take money out when the markets are down. And I think if you get that in your head, reframe the way you look at the markets and understand where your cash is coming from, that's probably going to give you the biggest comfort and allow you to go a little further out on the risk curve, where it's not really risky, it's just volatile. It's not your money is going to go to zero, it's going to go up and down. And we never know when that's going to happen.
All right, great. We have to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.